Why are we attracted to stories about vengeance? Have you realized that a sizable portion of movies, TV shows, video games, comics, and other forms of media involve stories of revenge? Even stories that are not focused on vengeance have a revenge subplot hidden somewhere. In this video, we'll explore the appeal of vengeance in fiction and why it continues to resonate with viewers. Let's get started. But before we go any further, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. In stories across all media, revenge is a central theme that drives the plot forward and captivates audiences. From classic literature to contemporary films, stories about vengeance have long been a staple of popular culture. Vengeance is often portrayed as a justifiable response to wrongdoing. In fiction, it's usually about a character trying to fix a wrong that was done to them or someone they care about. This quest for vengeance can play out in different ways, like someone going after the person that killed their loved one. These tales often dive into themes of justice, morality, and what happens when you take matters into your own hands. One of the biggest examples of revenge in literature is Hamlet. In Shakespeare's classic play, Hamlet is out for blood after his father is killed. His quest for revenge has become one of the most iconic in storytelling and has inspired countless other tales. But revenge isn't just a classic literature thing. It shows up all the time in movies, TV shows, and video games. Take Game of Thrones for example. Revenge is a huge driving force for many of the characters, like Arya Stark avenging her family or Cersei Lannister plotting against her foes. So what makes vengeance such an attractive theme in fiction? Revenge is a primal emotion everyone can relate to. It appeals to all of us because there is something about vengeance that can turn a man into a monster. We've all experienced the feeling of being wronged and wanting to seek justice. Even though we can't be Batman, stories about vengeance allow us to live vicariously through these characters. People get some solace from seeing their favorite heroes enact vengeance for injustice. Now, you can't just slap a revenge plot into your story and expect people to lap it up. It must, and I can't stress this enough, it must be good. Even though the theme of vengeance is pervasive across all media, it still needs to be executed well to be effective. There are so many movies, games, TV shows, and the likes that have revenge plots and no one cares about them because they lack the basic ingredients to make a great IP. For instance, vengeance is at the heart of the John Wick movies, but the action, the story, and the world building is what keeps the audience wanting more and has become a modern staple in pop culture. Stories about vengeance also involve themes of morality and justice. These themes resonate with audiences, and when they are executed well, the audience can reflect on their own moral beliefs. The protagonist seeking vengeance is often portrayed as a hero, despite the often violent nature of their actions. Vengeance raises questions about justifiable violence and if revenge can truly bring justice and closure to the hero. Stories about vengeance often involve complex characters and relationships. In many stories, the characters seeking vengeance have a personal connection to the person they want to punish. This adds emotional depth to the story and allows us to connect with the characters. Many of us can relate to being betrayed by someone we trust, so seeing our heroes seek vengeance satisfies us as the audience. There's an extra layer of depth when the characters in play know each other, but it has to be good. I can't stress this enough. There is a lot of media out there about vengeance, and I mean a lot. Whatever number of stories about vengeance you think exists, triple it. At its core, vengeance in fiction is rooted in the belief that justice must be served. When a character seeks vengeance, they are often doing so because they believe that the wrong that has been done to them or someone that they care about must be righted. This belief in justice is what drives the character's actions and gives the story its emotional weight. The belief in justice can also be a dangerous one because it changes the morality of the character. When characters seek revenge, they often do so at the cost of their own morality. Revenge can be all-consuming, leading characters down a path of violence and destruction. This raises important questions about whether revenge can bring justice and whether the cost is worth it. This is shown in the movie Death Sentence. In the movie, Kevin Bacon's son is brutally killed by a gang, and it leads him down a path of vengeance that destroys him and his family. The summary of the all-consuming potential of vengeance is in this scene in the climax.
Look at you. You look like one of us. Look what I made you.
Giving into vengeance changes you and has the potential to destroy even the things you hold dear. There is also an aspect of stories about vengeance that make for great storytelling when done right, and that is the no-kill rule. The no-kill rule is a self-imposed rule we see in a lot of stories, especially superhero stories, where the hero refuses to kill the antagonist under any circumstance. For years, people have debated whether this rule is effective and how it inspires moral dilemma. The most popular example is in Batman Under the Red Hood. Here, Jason Todd is revived from death with the Lazarus pit, and he confronts Batman about why he won't kill Joker for killing him. I think this is where the no-kill rule really took off, because ever since that movie dropped, there's been an uptick in the debates about this rule. Now, personally, I don't really care that much about the no-kill rule as many do, but I remember the uproar when Batman killed people in Batman vs Superman and how many people acted like Zack Snyder had committed treason. That's how much people care about the no-kill rule when it comes to Batman. Another example of the no-kill rule is in Avatar: The Last Airbender, where Aang goes on a journey to find a way to defeat Ozai without killing him. In stories about vengeance, the no-kill rule is an interesting tool because it adds depth to a character's beliefs. This often means finding clever, non-lethal ways to handle problems, which makes the story more engaging. We see this in Superman vs. the Elite. Here, Superman clashes with a new group of heroes that have no qualms about killing, and this resonates with the public because they feel it's the best way to deal with criminals. Superman then shows the public what a Superman that kills looks like, and they realize that killing is not the answer. If you haven't seen Superman vs. the Elite, go and see it. Great movie. The no-kill rule is also a good way to explore deeper ethical questions like the nature of justice, the limits of morality, and the cost of revenge. It examines the consequences of a character's actions and the possibility of redemption. The question is whether a person can reconcile their desire for revenge with their moral principles, and whether true justice can be achieved without killing. We see this in Civil War, where Black Panther sought to kill Bucky because he killed his father. He goes through the motions and then realizes that vengeance is not the answer.
Vengeance has consumed you. It's consuming them. I'm done letting it consume me.
Man, I love that line. By choosing not to kill, characters can engage in more complex interactions with their enemies and allies, leading to unexpected alliances, deeper rivalries, and more intricate character dynamics. There are a lot of characters to speak on when it comes to stories about vengeance, but I would like to showcase some of my favorite stories personally. And who better to start with than the man, the myth, the legend, the Batman. Batman goes by many names: the Bat, Caped Crusader, the Dark Knight, and the world's greatest detective. Throughout the years, there have been many voice actors, live action actors, and all the iterations of Batman that we see in comics, cartoons, and video games. Batman has become a definitive staple in pop culture, one of the most iconic superheroes of all time. But behind all of that is the man, Bruce Wayne. His story begins with the death of his parents at the hands of a local criminal, and this event leads to Bruce swearing vengeance on crime, and by using his vast resources becomes the Batman. Batman's appeal as a symbol of vengeance lies in his moral code. In a world of gods and monsters, he is just a man who must be way better than everybody else to succeed in his quest against crime. Batman shows the audience that despite the darkness he navigates, his unwavering commitment to a moral code separates him from the rest, and this resonates with those seeking justice in an unjust world. Batman is one of the most interesting superheroes in history to me. Batman represents resistance against corruption and injustice in Gotham City. He uses his commitment to fighting crime to appeal to those who feel powerless in the face of adversity. As a symbol of defiance, he inspires individuals to face their fears and injustices by embodying vengeance. By portraying vengeance as both a personal and societal response to injustice, Batman becomes a relatable figure who embodies the complexities of human emotion and morality.
20 years in Gotham, Alfred. We've seen what promises are worth. How many good guys are left? How many stayed that way?
Batman has become the symbol of the no-kill rule. Batman's commitment to this rule has defined him as a symbol of vengeance. He embodies a moral ambiguity that makes him compelling. While he fights for justice, his methods often involve violence and intimidation, blurring the lines between heroism and vengeance. Some people even see Batman as an anti-hero. Batman's struggle with his darker impulses add layers to his character, making him relatable and intriguing. Although Batman is vengeful, he often tries to redeem or rehabilitate his enemies. He frequently offers chances for redemption to characters like Harley Quinn, or even attempts to save Harvey Dent from becoming Two-Face. His character shows that while vengeance drives him, he also wants to prevent further suffering, showing a complex moral landscape where he struggles with the implications of his decisions. But in all of this, I think the greatest strength of Batman is his rogue gallery. Batman has the best rogue gallery in all of comics. His quest for vengeance can be seen through the eyes of his villains, his fear, his morality, his humanity. Even though Batman hopes to symbolize fear, he also inspires his archenemies. A recurring theme in Batman narratives is the idea that he is partially responsible for the existence of his villains. Many of his villains, such as the Joker and Two-Face, emerge as direct responses to his vigilantism. Even in the movie The Batman, we see that the Riddler arises because of Batman. This relationship suggests that Batman's quest for vengeance leads to the creation of more dangerous adversaries, creating a cycle where each villain represents a darker reflection of Batman himself. While Batman seeks order and justice, characters like the Joker represent chaos and anarchy. There's a complex interplay between hero and villain where their battles aren't just physical, they're philosophical too. Batman is forced to confront his fears and vulnerabilities, making their relationship deeply personal. Batman's journey to avenge crime gives rise to villains who challenge him in different ways, creating a narrative where they enhance each other. Batman's quest for vengeance reinforces the idea that vengeance can be both a motivating force for justice and a source of chaos if left unchecked. This leads us to Thorfinn. As far as stories about vengeance go, Thorfinn has one of the most interesting ones to me. If you haven't watched Vinland Saga, I highly recommend it. Even if you don't like anime, it's just a great story. Honestly, it's that good. In this story, we follow a boy, Thorfinn, whose father Thor is killed by mercenaries for fleeing the army during a battle. This leads Thorfinn down a path of vengeance that takes many unexpected turns. After promising to kill Askeladd, or should I refer to him by his name in the anime, Ashirado? I'm going off topic. I'm just going to call him Askeladd. After promising to kill Askeladd, the leader of the mercenaries that killed his father, his whole life becomes devoted to killing Askeladd. Thorfinn ends up joining his band of ruthless mercenaries, doing odd jobs and killing people, all for the hope of killing Askeladd in a one-on-one duel. His quest for vengeance leads him down a bloody path of violence and brutality. His goal of killing Askeladd becomes the sole reason for his existence, and he doesn't care how many people he must kill to achieve that goal. The story continues along this path, with Askeladd taking on a twisted teacher-student relationship with Thorfinn. Eventually, everything takes an unexpected turn when Askeladd is killed by Canute, and in that moment, everything shifts for Thorfinn. All that devotion, all that commitment, all that hatred, everything is just gone. Askeladd's death robs Thorfinn of his purpose, his goal, and his ambition. Thorfinn eventually ends up as a slave with no reason to live. It's not until he meets Einar that he is able to confront his past and move beyond his desire for revenge. While many revenge-driven characters stay static in their quest for vengeance, Thorfinn continuously evolves. Throughout his journey, he gradually realizes the futility of his vengeance and its impact on himself. Unlike more conventional revenge stories where the protagonist remains focused on their goal, his goal is taken from him, and this development is central to his character arc. As he grows, he questions the nature of revenge and violence. I love this story because the series uses vengeance as a tool to explore themes of existentialism and the search for truth beyond vengeance. Thorfinn's understanding of these concepts makes his journey more intriguing. Thorfinn's story is not without consequence, as he tackles the life he lived as a warrior and the backlash that comes with it. We see this in his meeting with Hild. In Thorfinn's time as a warrior, his band of mercenaries ruthlessly killed Hild's family, and Thorfinn specifically killed her father. What I love about this encounter is that it shows us two sides of vengeance. We see a man trying to atone for his past of brutality, and we see a woman that mirrors Thorfinn's story on a quest to avenge her father. We as the audience know that Thorfinn deserves to die, and just as she's about to kill him, she sees the ghost of her father and decides to spare him, to see for herself how he intends to atone for his past deeds and how he intends to build the land of peace in Vinland. Thorfinn's resolve for peace is tested time and time again. On the farm, with Thorkel, Garm, and his biggest test comes when he is face to face with Floki, the man that ordered the assassination of his father. Even when he gets to Vinland, but I'll let you read that for yourself. Thorfinn's story ultimately shifts towards themes of redemption and forgiveness. His realization that vengeance alone does not bring satisfaction leads him to seek a more profound sense of purpose. This transition from vengeance to a quest for personal redemption is a key differentiator from many revenge stories. But even in all of this, in my opinion, I don't think any character in all of fiction epitomizes the theme of vengeance better than the one, the only Frank Castle. The Punisher is more than just the average anti-hero that we all know. Something about the Punisher appeals to people on a global scale. Police, military, firefighters, and militia groups have used his symbols to represent their causes. Even back in the day, the Punisher wasn't the typical hero known to that era when he was created. His brutality and willingness to kill stood out from the typical heroes like Superman and Spider-Man. Punisher resonated with the audience because of his no-nonsense approach to crime, treating criminals with extreme prejudice, and I mean extreme prejudice. The biggest example I can give for this is in Civil War. In issue 6, we find out that Iron Man has added villains to his team to boost his numbers. With Captain America's side lacking the numbers, some villains also decide to join that side. But once they appear, Frank shoots them without a moment's hesitation. Didn't even care about anything they had to say. When I saw this for the first time, I thought to myself, yeah, this dude is crazy. This single act epitomizes Frank Castle's quest for vengeance. We all know the story of Frank Castle. He is a military vet trained in many forms of armed and unarmed combat. His path as the Punisher starts after his family is killed by the Mafia for accidentally witnessing a hit. After the system fails him, Frank will then wage a lifetime war against all crime by becoming the Punisher.
Those who do evil to others, the killers, the rapists, psychos, sadists, you'll come to know me well. Frank Castle is dead. Call me the Punisher.
Frank is a complex character to me because even though his motive is a simple one like vengeance, his methods and his judgment make his stories intriguing. I've always looked at Frank Castle as this sort of Grim Reaper kind of figure. Frank is the extreme end of vengeance. He does not forgive, he does not forget, he isn't seeking redemption. His sole mission is to execute criminals in whatever form they present themselves. The appeal of Frank Castle is that he represents those that have been failed by the system, those that have been neglected by the system. Frank's transformation from a family man into a ruthless symbol of vengeance taps into universal themes of loss, grief, and the desire for revenge, making him relatable to those that have experienced similar feelings of helplessness or injustice. His quest for vengeance is not just for his family, but extends to all criminals, reflecting a broader frustration with the justice system perceived as flawed. Frank's quest for vengeance is layered with psychological complexity. He epitomizes the loss of self in his crusade against crime. His moral code is complete eradication and will employ whatever tactic he has to. This duality, being both a victim and a perpetrator, explores the depths of his mental state, which makes him more compelling. His relentless pursuit of vengeance isolates him emotionally. He struggles to connect with others, often pushing away those that will provide support or understanding. As a survival mechanism, he keeps his emotional attachments at bay so he can focus on his mission. Frank Castle struggles with his own sense of humanity versus the killer he becomes in his role as the Punisher. This internal conflict between his human emotions and the violent persona he embodies appeals to the audience. Frank deals with survivor's guilt. Frank was the only one that survived his family's massacre and hates the fact that he couldn't protect them. So becoming the Punisher is a way of not only punishing criminals, but himself as well. The turmoil that comes with being a vigilante and the guilt he carries continues to haunt him in his crusade. This guilt further complicates his psyche and drives his relentless quest for justice. Frank's story of vengeance is one that ultimately shows him as a tragic character, a man that fights for the innocent and the forgotten to show the failure of a flawed system, a man that has thrown away his humanity in pursuit of vengeance and one that is still mourning and still grieving. A man with a code that will not allow others to cross the line he has crossed. Frank Castle might be the embodiment of vengeance, but he's ultimately a man like all of us, a man that still mourns and grieves. Story time. You know, vengeance is something we can all relate to. When I was younger, like many other people, I was bullied a lot. I hated those kids so much. I felt so weak, so powerless, unable to do anything for myself. I know what it feels like to be lost in that void of hate. I think there was a period in my life where if I had the chance, I might have gone over the edge and done something I'll regret. But eventually I learned that it's not me, it's them. I just have to keep being myself, being a better person, learning to reject that hatred and not giving them that power over my life. If I can do it, we all can do it. We don't need to ruin our lives over other people who ultimately don't matter. So when I see stories of kids going around taking out their frustrations on the world, I know how it feels. I can empathize, but that will never be the answer. Never give into that hate. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Which character story of vengeance do you love the most? Let me know in the comment section. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.